The easy way to do it is to use a DeWalt multi-tool. No other brand around here, DeWalt, period.
So we had a little debate about which is going to be the best way to do this. So I won the debate, so let's hope that that works out in my favor.
This line on the outside was a little bit open angled. What's up guys, welcome back to WSBG. I am Jake and we're continuing our series on building a golf simulator inside of our garage. Check out the progress we've made. We've got our Carl's Place custom enclosure all up. You saw us lay the underlayment, the foam padding, and kind of show you what we bought and why. If you didn't watch those videos, make sure you go back and watch them. I highly recommend it. Show you exactly what we did and how we did it. And if you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. But let's walk in here. The delivery man brought us our turf last night, and that's what we're gonna be focusing on today. Putting our putting turf around. It'll be where we kind of stand and hit golf balls. Be nice to finally have this thing up. So we're not hitting as many fat shots. It's kind of hard. This is about I don't know, 3/4 of an inch difference from where my feet are at versus the hitting unit, but super nice and smooth so far. And yeah, we're gonna get going on this thing. We'll do a voiceover and show you exactly what we're doing. It's gonna be a great video. Stay tuned. So we did a ton of research when it came to what putting turf or surround turf that we wanted to choose. We obviously already had our hitting mat, but we needed the spot for us to stand to cover the entire foam underlayment mat. We went with MSI putting turf, and we are so happy we did. It was a great mixture of economical price-wise and then also quality. We're super happy with it so far. You saw us there unroll it so we could kind of make sure, inspect if they sent us the right width and length and that there were no nick stings or anything, stains that came directly from the factory. For our application, we needed a 14-foot wide and 12-foot long strip. So we only had to cut 1 foot off of one end, and you can see us measuring that here. We're using actually a silver Sharpie, and keep in mind, we'll link everything that we use in the description below in case you want to build your own simulator, kind of copy what we're doing. Totally glad to help you in that way. But we're measuring out everything with a silver Sharpie, and then you'll see us come back here in just 1 second with a chalk line. The chalk line is key. It gives you the ability to make a straight, true line all the way across. Very important that not only you mark the chalk line, but your partner on the other side of the turf does as well, so you have an even line all the way across. It's going to make cutting it so much easier. And as always, Alan, being the handyman, tool man that he is, he's going to come back and measure this thing another time just to make sure we did it correctly and our cut line is true all the way across. All right, so it's actually getting hot here in Oregon, believe it or not. So I threw on my grandpa's cowboy hat. He just gave it to me today, so got to rock it. But hey, we got the turf all measured out. We took our measurement, and then basically what we did is came down here, measured where we needed to cut, marked it with a silver Sharpie, and then used a chalk line to get a perfectly straight line across. Now, there's a couple different ways you can cut this. You can either use a box knife or a carpet knife. The easy way to do it is to use a DeWalt multi-tool. No other brand around here, DeWalt, period. I don't want to hear anything about Milwaukee or Ryobi or any of these other brands. Yellow is better, period. And then we got a Diablo. It's actually a rigid scraping blade, and the friction from this is going to cut right through this like butter. It's going to be perfect. We'll show you the end result. So I can't take credit for the rigid scraping tool attachment on the multi-tool idea to cut this. It was actually a buddy of mine who's probably watching this video, who's a landscaping contractor, who gave me this tip. He actually uses it to cut it around curved edges around landscaping beds, but it made this process so much quicker. Obviously, we'd love to be able to give you a close-up of how easy this was, but there's only 2 of us, and I needed Alan's help holding that turf, pulling it away, keeping it kind of tensioned, if that's even a word or a way to explain it, to make it cut easier. And it certainly did. It cut like butter. It was super easy to stay on that turf or on that chalk line and give us an accurate straight cut. Now, not everybody's going to have a multi-tool or want to buy a multi-tool. You're certainly free to use a box cutter or a carpet knife. We have one of those and we use that to cut the strip out. You'll see that here in a bit. But I would just recommend using a straight edge. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to keep that cut straight. It's going to take a little bit more elbow grease, but it's still manageable. I think it's possible, but the multi-tool is definitely easier.
All right, guys, we're back. So we finished cutting the mat. I'll tell you what, using the multi-tool made it so much easier. I recommend highly that you do that. If you don't have one, hopefully you have a friend that you can borrow one. So we went ahead and made the cut along the one sides because we know how wide we need it to be. And then along the other side, we trimmed off the factory trim that came with a little bit of extra plastic on the end just so it would have a nice clean look. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get prepared to put in and cut the hole for the hitting mat. So we had a little debate about which is going to be the best way to do this. So I won the debate, so let's hope that that works out in my favor. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here, and if you look at the floor mat, the convenient thing about these squares is they're exactly 2 feet by 2 feet, which kind of helps, you know, make it a little bit easier to understand. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down here.
Well, we realized we didn't show you the process of cutting the actual teeth off of the foam mats. Not much to say about it. It's pretty simple. We used our DeWalt box cutter and just kind of ran it across those teeth, and they come off really easily. I wouldn't worry too much about getting them perfect. It ultimately didn't affect the fitment of our hitting strip being flush. There was a couple spots on the corner, and I'll show you the corner clip here. It was a little bit difficult to get the corner cut out square. There was one corner, I think it was the top right corner, when we went back and put the hitting strip in, that I had to take just a little bit more out of to make sure that the hitting strip sat flush. But overall, just take your time. I mean, that's pretty much the key with all of this, is taking your time, not rushing through it. And be careful that you don't cut yourself. You can see I'm trying to cut away from myself and keep my fingers safe. So just be careful, don't cut a finger off, then you can't golf at all.
And as you can see by this measurement, it is exactly 2 feet. So we know that when we go out to the turf, we're going to be able to come in 2 feet from the edge. We know that's where the backside of the hitting mat's going to be. The other part that we did when we ordered the hitting mat is we worked to our advantage by ordering a 2x4 hitting mat. So we already know it's 2 feet in, and we know that we took 2 squares of the foam out, which should match the size of the hitting mat. And because that's 2 feet in, this distance is exactly 4 feet, down to the 1/4 of an inch, actually. So we know that we're going to be 6 feet in at the top, 2 feet at the bottom. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go from each side, and we're going to measure in from each side, which is exactly 71 1/4 on that side. And just to make sure, because there can be a little bit of anomaly in between these mats, we're going to measure both sides, not just assume that this side is 71 1/4. So we're going to go ahead and measure that one. What do you know? 71 1/4. So what we'll do is we'll go out, we'll make marks out there with a silver Sharpie, and then we'll take our multi-tool and we'll cut it off, and we'll cut the hole, and let's hope this works out. Okay, so we'll just basically find the center here, and then we're going to go exactly 2 feet in. So I want you to come down here and hold this for me so it's right on the edge of the black, not on the edge of the, okay? Okay, that's our 2 foot mark. Okay, now we're going to go remeasure this again, because I am not screwing this up. Get right there. Now mark 71 7/16.
So the debate we had around cutting and how to cut this turf strip out correctly was just based upon what I've seen in the past. I've seen people that lay the turf on top of their mat and then kind of use a razor knife to find that cutout and then just cut a square around and then trim around it. I realize that most people probably don't have a big open driveway they can lay it out, and also probably just don't have the weather that we're having in Portland right now in the summer. A lot of people build their sims towards the winter when it might be a little nastier outside. Makes it a little bit more difficult to trim. So that was the only reason why there was a debate. This ended up being awesome. And I'll give kudos to Alan for his ingenuity on how to pull this thing off. And it was perfect. Now, one thing you can see here, I went and got a straight edge. Alan started freehanding the measurements, and they definitely got crooked. I don't think he had his glasses on in this one, so they were getting crooked, and I was like, dude, we need a straight edge. So I went and got our level, provided a straight edge. And by the way, our level is huge. Many people are saying it might be the biggest, most beautiful level ever seen. Sorry, I had to do it. But it did come in handy, and it did the trick in allowing us to make straight lines to then further enable our cuts down the road to be straight. You can see us take a tape measure just to make sure we had the right measurements again. We're double and triple checking, especially when you're making cuts, because you can't undo a cut, and it ended up being right bang on what we needed.
All right, guys, so we made our measurement for our hitting mat, but what we're going to do is after making the lines where we're going to cut, we're going to use a tape measure and double check our work just to make sure that we didn't make any mistakes when we were measuring. Remember, measure once, twice. I'm thinking measure 4 or 5 times before you cut, right? Because once you cut this, there's no turning back. That is exactly 2 feet, my friends, okay? And this measurement right here It's a little light of 4, which is good, because you'd rather have it be a little tight by about a 1/16 of an inch, because guess what? We can always trim it back a little bit if we made it a little bit too small, but you know what we can't do is add it back on after we trimmed it.
A couple things before we cut. Number one, we unanimously decided to use the box cutter, simply because the multi-tool I think might skip when you're trying to just press through. This will be a little bit more precise since this is a pretty precise cut, has to be right on the line. Number two, we measured it up really quickly one more time, and you can see why it's so paramount to make sure that you measure twice. This line on the outside was a little bit open angled, so we had to remeasure it and make sure, and this one on the inside is absolutely perfect. So we're gonna make sure to make these cuts right on the perfect line, and when we come back, we're gonna have a perfect mat. Just like that, we have a perfect cutout, I think. At least I hope. Now the nice thing, if you want to come up here and show them this turf really quick, so the 2x4 is actually this black part. You have this turf that kind of frays out, which will kind of hide if there was any spots that, you know, might have been a little crooked or whatnot. Obviously you want to try and do a great job the first time, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I think once we get this thing laid down flat, use some carpet tape to make sure that the edges stay down, it's gonna be perfect. Okay, so ideally you would be putting the turf in before you build the enclosure, but our turf was late showing up from MSI where we ordered it. So we're gonna kind of finagle this and lift up the one edge of the enclosure, tuck the turf again, lift up another edge of the enclosure. Another option is trimming the turf to fit perfectly inside, and you can do that certainly, but we wanted the completely seamless look, having the enclosure and the screen on the same level as the turf that we were standing on. So this is the way we're choosing to do it, but your mileage may vary, and I would recommend doing this before the enclosure if you can. This clip that you're about to see was a strong contender for the WSBG mic'd up segment. By the way, let me know if you liked that. It's kind of fun, but I wish I could have, in good faith, put the audio of us talking this through. Definitely ideal to put this down first before you build your enclosure. It wasn't too difficult, but the way that our garage works, it's tight spaces between those stairs and then over by the water heater, and trying to lift this up. You can see Alan almost on top of me right now. Again, one of the most funny things watching this back and listening to what we were saying to each other. Maybe someday we'll do a WSBG uncensored edition. I don't know. But as always, your boys made it work. We got the turf laying exactly how we needed to. Look at that cutout. It worked absolutely perfectly. Shout out to Alan for his measuring skills. I had so much faith, absolutely no second questioning or anything, right? I hope you can sense my sarcasm, but it worked out. We're super happy with that. Right now we're disappeared because we're trying to pull the turf back to the back edge as it slides back. You can kind of see it. And another testament to Alan's measuring skills, we showed you that blue painter's tape in one of the first videos. That's where we thought it would land. And sure enough, it landed right square on those marks. This is all about the planning, people. All right, so it actually worked. We made all our cuts pretty good. We haven't taped this down yet. So it does puff up a bit. Once we tape it down with carpet tape, and that's the next step, obviously, it's gonna sit nice and flush. But man, does it look good. This turf's a great color, MSI putting turf. We ordered it from build.com. It was a great deal. We'll put a link in the description down for you, but goodness, Alan, your measuring worked. And we'll finally have a good thing to stand on instead of a foam mat. That was a terrible shot, but so the next step's going to be getting that carpet tape out and kind of starting to touch the corners up, tape the mat down, tape around here so we don't have any fraying or any kind of, I guess, misshaping of the carpet because of the foot movement from a swing. Obviously, there's some waves from the turf. This turf's been rolled up for God knows how long in the back of a semi-truck, so there'll be a natural amount of settling, I would think. And then once we stretch it real tight and use the carpet tape, it's going to be absolutely perfect. So let's grab that tape and we'll start showing you that process.
All right, guys, so we're going to start putting down the double-sided tape so that it holds us down nice and steady. And by the way, this segment of the program is sponsored by Roberts.
Yeah, sure.
Max Grit.
Sure.
Tape.
Yeah, Roberts, if you're watching, go ahead and throw us the sponsor.
Yeah, it's going to work really good. So the whole idea here is it's double-sided adhesive. So you unroll just like you would normal tape and put it on the ground where you want the carpet to end up staying. And then when you're done, you work your way from the back to the front and you stretch it and you peel it off as you go, and then you press it down real good so that it doesn't slip or slide, okay? So we're going to start up there and work our way back. We got the handy-dandy blue blanket here, because I got to tell you what, this turf is hard on the knees when you're down here, so I wouldn't recommend doing this in shorts, guys. We learned the hard way.
Hey, is this thing on? I really want to make sure it's on. This is Alan coming back at you, and I thought my microphone was on before, but Jake supposedly turned it on, but he really didn't. So, like we talked about before, we're going to be laying down the tape here to tape around the edge of the hitting mat and the turf. As you can see, we're just doing it in sections, about a 1 foot strip every, 6 inches to 12 inches. You don't need to put tape around the entire perimeter. This tape is super sticky, so just to make it a little bit easier, instead of trying to pull up giant strips of it when we go down to put it down, we did it in strips. Worked great. We started at the front and worked our way back so that we could kind of pull it tight so that it would sit nice and flush. Now, when we move over to the hitting mat, this is the part that's actually the most important piece. We put an excessive amount of tape around the edge where the hitting mat is going to go in on the turf. This is the part that's going to get the most use and the most hitting and contact. So we want to make sure to really take time to put that down sufficiently. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it all around the edge of the perimeter of the turf itself. And then we're going to go and we're going to take the hitting mat and we're going to put a lot. As you can see right here in the video, we're putting it every 4 or 5 inches for the entire width of the mat. And then we're going to take it, we're going to peel it all off and flip it over and lay it down. Now, one of the things we ran into is that the edge of the mat has some excessive turf that kind of sticks over. It actually really is nice because it makes it neat and a nice seam with the turf. But because it sticks up kind of high, we found that it wasn't melding really well. So what we did, and what you might want to do, is we used a pair of scissors, and we used the dull side of the scissors, by the way, and we slid it in between the two so that they would kind of come together and match up a little bit nicer. So it really turned out great. We haven't had any slippage or any problems since we've done this, and so we're real happy with how it worked out, and I'm sure you will be the same.
And that right there is a wrap on the turf project. Came out fantastic. I want to show you a couple things. We were initially worried about this kind of sticking up. Completely unfounded. It's perfect. There are a couple little areas that I think we could use a little bit more tape, but for the most part, we're really happy with it, aren't we, Alan?
Yeah, it turned out really good.
So there are some places, like right here, there's a little bit of a bubble. We might work on stretching that a bit, maybe using some carpet tape under there. We'll see. I have a feeling that it's been wrapped up in the back of a truck for a while, so it'll settle out, and if in a couple weeks we need to touch it up, we will. But for now, that is it. I'm gonna hit one shot, and then we'll wrap the video up Thank you so much for watching, guys. Next video, we will be talking, oh yeah. Next video, we'll go over the technology we're using. The projector actually showed up today, which is pretty cool. We'll get that mounted up, and then we'll talk about the computer, the launch monitor, and probably honestly play our first set of golf. So make sure you hit the subscribe button if you want to see more of this content, and we'll catch you in the next one. And as always, keep it straight.